1964. I remember this day particularly because this was when I got interested in the flying. My husband had a friend down at Camperdown called Bert Rebellion. So he had arranged this day that we were going to go down and visit these people. I had heard that Bert's son was flying, but, you know, didn't take much notice. At any rate, we got down there, and of course his son Robert started to talk to me about flying. I laughed. I said, perhaps one day I might learn to fly, but I said, I don't think my husband would let me anyway. He said, come out and I'll show you, you know, the thrust and drag and all that sort of thing. He showed me a few things. And I said, but my schooling wouldn't be good enough. I couldn't learn to fly. Because I said, I only went to the 8th grade and I didn't even go to the end of the 8th grade. He said, oh, you could, they take you right back, you know. Anyway, I just laughed and put it off. Anyway, we sat up to dinner and he piped up, Mr. Eagles, would you let your wife fly? And to my amazement, my husband said, if she wants to fly, I wouldn't stop. I'd certainly let her fly. Well, my goodness. So on the way home in the car, I said, you weren't really serious about me flying. He said, I was so serious that if you decide to take up flying, he said, I'll pay for it. In fact, there's only one stipulation I make, he said, and that is that you do the ground subjects first. If we make sure you can pass the schoolwork, I'll pay for your flying. Of course, after him saying that, what could I do but go out and see the people at Grovedale and see if I could learn to fly? They took me for a test flight to make sure I wouldn't faint or anything when I got up in the air, and everything was all right. So I got my books, and I did about 10 months of hard study. Finally passed my big exam, to my amazement, because I hardly knew anything about the aeroplane until this stage. Anyway, I passed the big exam, so my husband said, well, go right ahead. Nobody was prouder than he was. So I set off with my flying then. My husband said to me, this is Apple of course, said to me, now, he said, being a bit older, by this time I was 48, he said, being a bit older, he said, I would advise you to go often. He said, don't just fly once a week, fly every day. So every day was suitable. I went out in the morning at 7 o'clock and again at night about 6 o'clock. And I did that, and it actually took me 3 months even then to pass my licence. When I started to learn to fly, they let me know that there was a Women's Pilots Association that I could join. So I didn't do anything until I got my licence. When I got my licence, I thought, well, I might as well be in it. So I wrote away and had to pay so much, whatever it is a year. I think it's about $30 a year now to join. And of course, I got to know a lot of the other women pilots then, which was lovely. I was able to go to any dues they had on, going to some competitions. I went into a competition one time that they had. You had to fly down a solo flight down over the Gippsland area, you know. I was very pleased with myself. I came fourth in that. That wasn't very good, I know, but it was still better than not getting anywhere. We went this lovely trip around Australia. I did about 5,000 miles, I think it was, something like that. I've got it all written down in the book. Anyway, we had this lovely flight and got back. While I was away, in other trips I've been to, I've been several trips, of course. This wasn't my only one, but this was my long one right around Australia. Came back through Birdsville. I was told I was only the second woman to land in Birdsville, and arrived back in Geelong in exactly 1 month. It took me one month to fly around, and yet I'd done all those thousands of miles. This is my logbook, and in this book we have to put down everything we fly, where we've been, and the number of minutes that we're in the air. That was an air trial I went in for. Back here you'll probably have where I got endorsed for a Delta Flying College. That was when I got endorsed for flying, for doing spins in a Victor. Everything's got to go in that logbook, and that's my licence. Of course, this is my flight plans, and like I said, I always keep a little bit of something in the back in case I get into any worry and want to check anything up. This is my flight log. visual flight guide. This is the one I was telling you about that I'd forgotten to have when I had to land at Canberra. I was told, so I never went anywhere without that after that. And this is all the aerodromes in Australia. We have a little plan of every aerodrome in Australia. When I first started to fly, we didn't have that, and we just had to find out when we got there. But now they send, and they're all modernised right up to date. Every aeroplane in Australia, every aerodrome in Australia is in this little booklet. Adelaide, Melbourne, visual terminal chart. Well, that's the one for the local area, but we have them for all the different capital cities. So that shows you Melbourne, a bigger map of Melbourne, which shows it clearly. For instance, there's Melbourne Aerodrome. Oh, there goes the phone. There's Geelong. Anyway, this is my visual flight guide. This is very important because this has all the things in it. If you're going somewhere and you're not sure about what you should do at a certain aerodrome, whether they have right-hand circuits or left-hand circuits, you look it up in that. That's very handy. Of course, this is all my maps. All maps, and this is my maps. These are special maps we get. They're called the WAC chart that we get for when we're going anywhere at all. You can get for anywhere in Australia or New Zealand, in fact for anywhere, you can get a map like this so that you know exactly where you're going. And we have to draw what we call a run line on it, then you measure it off with your protractor so that you know what direction you're going in. And measure it off down here by the number of knots, and then you know you have to use your computer, which I've got a computer around here somewhere. This is my computer, and we use this to measure off. We put the distance we're going and the wind velocity, which we can ring up Melbourne, at the DCA office, and find out what the wind velocity is. That's the wind and the speed. And we put that all on that, and then we can work it out and find out exactly what direction we're going in. And we turn it over this way, and by putting this onto the number of hours and checking it up with the distance we've got to go, we can find out how long it's going to take us to go from A to B. Now, once you know how long it's going to go from A to B, you set off. We usually check, we go by dead reckoning, and we usually check on the way, of course, when we're flying. You know, you double check when you know you're going to be over a certain town and that sort of thing. So you check every little while to make sure you're right, check with the ground. But when you get to the place, you go flying from A to B. When you get to B, if the place isn't there, well, that's when it gets a bit of a worry. Because if you've done your work all right, you should be just right over that place when your time is up. This is my flight bag that I would never fly anywhere without taking it with me. Now in here I always take a first aid kit, which is that. And this little thing, it might look a bit funny, but that's got a little cup, a bit of plastic, and if we have to accidentally put down somewhere in the middle of the desert so that we don't die of thirst, we make a hole in the ground, we put a little pebble, we put the plastic around, put a little pebble in the middle, and that causes the water the condensation to run down to this cup and we can get some water to drink. So I don't go anywhere, that just remains in my bag all the time. And of course, this very important model is to check that there's no water in the fuel. Because if we took off with water in the fuel, I tell you what, if we come to water in the fuel when we're upstairs, that'll be the end of things. So that has to always be checked before you leave. On one occasion I was flying to King Island, and when I checked for water I got nearly a bottle full of water. So I had to drain the tanks and go to a lot of trouble before I finally settled, because it's too dangerous to leave if there's water in the fuel. My very last flight was down to Warrnambool. I flew down to Warrnambool to see a cousin of my husband's down there and flew back again. Before that, in 1970, I've done smaller flights, but the last big flight I took after my husband died the only really big flight I've taken since my husband died, really, because I've done smaller flights, but he died in 1973, and somehow or other didn't seem the same going on my own. But I took Auntie Judith and Uncle Bill up to the centre with me in, I think it must have been about 1974 or 75.
And how he worshipped the ground she walked, and when he looked in her eyes, he became obsessed. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. My love is like a storybook story, but it's as real as the feelings I feel. It's as real as the feelings I feel.